This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Today we're going to be repairing a GE oven that doesn't heat during the bake cycle. So almost always this is due to a faulty igniter. So igniters just get kind of weak. And they take a long time for the oven to start baking, or it doesn't start at all. Sometimes you hear like a gas smell. So we took off the oven door. It just slides right off. Just pull it up, and then we took out. Make sure to unplug your oven first. The oven racks, we're going to unloosen 2 standard head screws in the back, and then they're just standard head. You could sometimes need a standard head screwdriver to take them off. And we're going to lift up the back of this plate and just pull it out at 45 degrees. There's a little lip in the front, you have to pull it out. And then you can see the igniter. And we're going to use a little bit of oil. This stuff is break-free type oil, but any kind of oil will work to put on the threads of some of the screws that we have to take out. Because in an oven, they tend to get corroded, and also they get hot and cold so many times that they get kind of stuck. So the oil helps us to get these screws out without breaking them. I'm going to take out this lower drawer called the broiler pan so we can get to some of the electrical connections underneath. And once we get down here, there's 2 wires that we have to take out, and two screws, 2 1/4-inch screws. They're little black screws here in the back. First, we're going to undo this wire connection, just a modular connection. And we're going to take off 1 spade connection that's on the safety valve in the back. These are the ones that are coming from the igniter. Take out 2 1/4-inch screws that hold the gas tube or the venturi in place, and we have to remove 1 from the top. We already put a little oil on that screw to make it easier to get out. Now we can pull the whole venturi tube and igniter and wires out. And now we're going to put some oil on the threads that hold the igniter in. These are the ones that usually will break unless you oil them. You want to wipe off all the oil once you're done here so that it doesn't create some bad smoke when you start using the bake cycle. So we let that sit just for a minute. Then we're going to take a 1/4-inch screwdriver and remove these 2 small screws that hold on the igniter. And these igniters are round for the GE ovens, and usually they're more of a square look for most other ovens. You can get the exact one that goes for your model, and you don't have to splice in the wire, or you can get a generic one that are a lot cheaper, and you can splice in the wires. That's what we're doing today. The generic ones are great. Their quality is really good. They last the same duration. It's just that you have to splice in the wire, so we use these wire cutters. So we're cutting off the one that came with it, making the wires a little bit shorter. We're going to take off about a 1/4-inch of the insulation, so we're exposing the wire itself. And then we're going to cut off the old wires from the old igniter, because we're going to need to use those modular fittings from the old one. We want to cut the old ones real close to the old igniter, so we have a long amount of wire. We're going to also take off about a 1/4-inch of insulation from these wires using our wire strippers. And then we use these really cool ceramic wire nuts that come with your igniter kit. If you just look under Google for GE igniter, you'll see a lot of companies that sell it. Amazon sells them, and they're pretty cheap. We're going to put the wires together, and then we put the ceramic wire nut on, and we twist it really tight. The ceramic ones are good because they don't melt. They're designed for heat. Get it on as tight as you can, or it won't turn anymore, and we're going to do that for the other wire too. So this whole procedure would probably take you half an hour or less. Pretty easy to do. We put the new igniter in position, going to take these small 1/4" screws and we're going to zip them in there to hold the igniter in place. Don't worry about getting the correct wire on the correct part of the igniter, because in this application you can't do it wrong. You can do it either way, will be fine. Some circuits you want to make sure you have all the wires lined up correctly, but this one can be either wire can hook up to either wire, no problem. So we're going to feed this all back in to the oven cavity, and we're going to try to get the end of this Venturi tube to fit back over the safety valve. There's a little brass round piece on the safety valve. We want to make sure that fits onto it. That's where the gas comes out and comes up into this tube. So we're going to look underneath. So right now it's not lined up, so I'm going to lift it a little bit, and then I'm going to put it over that safety valve brass tube. There we go. I'm going to hook up the modular connector. Just clips back on, and I'll hook up the spade connector that goes onto the safety valve. This one's a little bit hard to get to, so just take your time. Push that on, and then we're going to put the screw back in here in the front for the Venturi tube. And then there's also 2 1/4" screws we're going to put on for the back of the Venturi tube that's underneath here where the broiler pan goes. You want to line up the holes and just zip those screws in. Sorry the camera missed where these are, but you'll see them when you get there. They're just 2 black screws. And we turn it on. We're just going to test it. It's okay to have the door open when you do this. We plugged it back in, turned it back on. What you should see is that the igniter starts to glow pretty fast, and it gets almost yellow in color in terms of how hot it gets. And then it'll be hot enough to let in the gas and ignite the gas. So it's just starting to glow. Should take within 60 seconds you should have ignition. If it takes longer than that, that means the igniter's just worn out. Sometimes people too also say they smell gas when the igniters start to wear out. So it's getting pretty hot, almost white hot. And then we're going to get the ignition. There's the flame, nice blue flame. So we're looking good. So now we're just going to put it all back together. Turn it off, let it cool down a little bit before you put this plate back on. You just don't want to burn your hands. And you're going to fit it in, have it come in at 45 degrees, get the front lip into position, and just set the back down, and then try to line up the little holes back there so you can put in those screws. The screws are not vital. If they don't go back in exactly right, it's okay. Everything will still work fine. So again, this will cure a problem of either the bake doesn't work, or it's not heating very well, or you smell a gas smell when you're trying to bake. It just means you need a new igniter. The other thing that can cause an igniter not to work would be it's not getting power from the control module, but that's pretty rare. And those are pretty expensive. We're going to slide in these racks. And then we'll carefully slide the door back in. Just take your time. Don't hurt your back. I usually rest it against my knee. Get it lined up and then just slide it down. It'll lock into place. And then test the door, make sure it's working. And that's it. And you're going to have an oven that works good again. You can bake some cookies. You're back in business. So thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe to our channel when you get a chance. Thank you.